sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 23. Yadashana Abhyam Nalina. Asam Mahatmana. Navidam Yagna Sambharam. Purusha Vayavan Rute.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead.
Text 24. Tesu Yagnasya Pasvaha Savanaspataya Kushaha Idamna Deva Yagnama Kalacharu Guna Vitaha.
For performing sacrificial ceremonies, one requires sacrificial ingredients such as flowers, leaves, and straw, along with the sacrificial altar and a suitable timing, spring.
Text 25. Vastuni Osadaya Sneha Rasa Loha Buddha Jalam Vachoya Jomasi Samani Chatur Hotram Chasatamaha.
Other requirements are utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Samaveda, and 4 priests to perform the sacrifice.
Text 26. Nama Deyani Mantrascha Dakshinascha Vartani cha Divatano Kramha Kalpaha Sankalpasa Tatram Evacha.
Other necessities include invoking the different names of the demigods by specific hymns and vows of recompense in accordance with the particular scripture
27.
for specific purposes and by specific processes.
Text 27. Gataya Matyas Jaiva Payayachitam Samparshamam Purushavayane Vervete Sambraraha Samuta Maya.
Thus, I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead. By invocation of the demigods' names, the ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete.
Text 28. Iti was going up to her. Iti Samrata Sambrahara Purushavaya Ve Aham Tama Eva Purusham Yagnam Tena Vaya Jam Ishwaram.
Thus, I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
I'm here now. Yeah.
She's joined.
Okay,
Shall I start?
Yeah, to 29 she has to do.
Shall I? Where am I?
29.
29.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody started, yeah?
Yeah, I was doing it for you.
Haribo. Okay. Hare Krishna. Text 29. Tataste bradaram ime prajanam patayo nava ajajan vyaktam avyaktam purusham sho samaditaha.
My dear son, thereafter your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, perform the sacrifice with proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and non-manifested personalities.
Text 30. Tatascha manavakale ijiri sayo pare pitado vibudha daitya manushya krutubir vibhum.
Thereafter, the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and mankind performed sacrifices meant to please the Supreme Lord.
Text 31. Narayane Bhagavati Tad idam Vishvame ahitam Grita Mayaru Gunaha Sargad Aguna Swataha.
All the material manifestations of the universes are therefore situated in his powerful material energies, which he accepts self-sufficiently, although he is eternally without affinity for the material modes.
Text 32. Srijami tan niyuktoham naro harati tadvasaha vishvam purusha rupena paripati tri sakti drik.
By his will, I create. Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself, in his eternal form as the personality of Godhead, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies.
Text 33. Iti te bihitam tata yate dam anuprichyatsi. You okay? Yatidam uniprechasi nanyad bhagavata kinchid bhavyam sad asa atmakam.
My dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you. And you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Text 34.
Can you scroll up?
Sorry? Text 34, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Text 34. Na bharati me nirgam misopalaksyate. Na bharati me nigamir sopalaksyate. Na vai kvachit me manuso mrisagati. Na me hiskani patyan satpate. Yan me dao kantyavata. Drito Harihi.
O Narad, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachments to matter.
Hare Krishna. Text 35. Soham samam naya maya yastapamayaha prajapatinam abhivanditapatihi astaya yogam nipunam samatitas tam nadya gacham yata atma sambhavaha.
Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and I am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth.
Text 36. Nato smiyaham tachanam smimi yuksham bhava chidam swati ayanam sumangalam yohi atma maya vivabam swaparya God yata nabhaswatam atta parikutaha.
Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits?
Hare Krishna. Text 37. Naham nayuyam yadritam katim vidur navamadeva kim atu pare suraha tanmayaya mohita buddhaya idam vinimritam achatma swayam samam vikapsmaha mahi.
Since neither Lord Shiva, nor you, nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by such illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only his manifested cosmos according to our individual ability.
Text 38. Yasya vatara karmani gayanti amada adayaha nayam vidati tatvena tasmai bhagavate namaha.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is.
Text 39. Sayesha adya purushaha kalpe kalpe srijatiya jaha atmatmani atmanat manam sasamyachati paticha.
That Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again.
Text 40 to 41. Vasudevam kala kavelam jnanam patyak samyag avastitam satyam purnam anadyantam nirgunam nityam advayam rishir vidanti murnayaha pasantatmendriyas sayaha yada tad avasattarkais yada tad avasattarkais tirodiyeta viplutam.
The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all-pervading, without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narad, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings and when sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted and the Lord disappears from our sight.
Adyo vatara parusha parasya kala svabhava sadasan manasya dvavyam vikaro guna indriyani virat swarat stastu chirishnu bhumana.
Karana Navasai Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the master of eternal time, space, cause and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form, and the Lord. Garbhodakshai Vishnu and the sum total of all living beings both moving and non-moving.
Text 40, where am I? 42, is it? No.
43
Text
to 45.
43 to 45, Haribol. Aham bhavo yajnaimi pache chesa dakshayo ye bhavat adayascha swalo kapalaha bagalo kapala nirlo kapalas talalo kapalaha gandharva vidyadhara charanesha ye yaksha Rakshoraganaganataha Yevarisinam Rasabha Pitrenam Daitriyanandra Sidriswara Dhanavedraha Aye Anye Chaye Preta Vicharabhuta Kushmandayado Mrigapakshya Deshya Yadkinchaloke Bhagavan Mahasvad Oja Sahasvad Balavad Shamatva Srihir Vibhuti Atmavada Bhutamanam Tarnam Tadvam Param Rupavad Ashvarupam.
I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narad and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Bhurloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhar planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, Jinn, Kusmandas, great aquatics, great beasts and birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptive dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be specific truth and the form of the Lord. But actually, they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord.
Krishna, that's beautiful. Text 46. Radhanyoto Yanrishi Amananti Leela Bataran Purushasya Bhumnaha Apiyatam Karna Kasaya Soshan Anukrameshi Imam Supeshan.
O Narad, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, known as Lila Avtaras. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Hare Bol.
Thank you for the recitations. Thank you very much. So, Jyoti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you can share your screen now.
Sure. Thank you. All of you can see my screen, I guess.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. So, yeah, thank you for the recitations, Mataji and Prabhuji. Okay. So let's start. We are going to go through 3 verses where the purports by Srila Prabhupada is given are pretty elaborate. There is a lot to absorb in that. So let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtati Yum Pravrajandamanupetamapeta Kutyam Dvaipayano Virahaka Tara Aju Ava Putreti Tanmayatayo Taravo Vinedus Tam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Manimanatosmi. So, second canto, 6th chapter, verse number 34. Let's chant the verse. Na bharati menga mrushopalakshate na vai kvachinme manaso mrushagatihi na me rushikani patantya satpate yanme rutotkanthevata grato harihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Narad, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Purport. Lord Brahma is the original speaker of Vedic wisdom to Narad, and Narad is the distributor of transcendental knowledge all over the world through his various disciples like Vyasadeva and others. The followers of Vedic wisdom accept the statements of Brahmaji as gospel truth, and transcendental knowledge is thus being distributed all over the world by the process of disciplic succession from time immemorial, since the beginning of the creation. Lord Brahma is the perfect, liberated, living being within the material world, and any sincere student of transcendental knowledge must accept the words and statements of Brahmaji as infallible. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes from directly, it comes down directly from the Supreme Lord unto the heart of Brahma. And since he is the most perfect living being, Brahmaji always correct to the latter. And this is because Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord who has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as the supreme truth. In the Brahma Samhita, which is compiled by Brahmaji, he repeats the aphorism, Govindam Adipurusham Tama Aham Bhajami. I am the worshipper of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord. So, whatever he says, whatever he thinks, and whatever he does normally in his mood are to be accepted as truth because of his direct and very intimate connection with Govinda, the primeval Lord. Sri Govinda, who pleasingly accepts the loving transcendental service of his devotees, gives all perfection to the words and actions of his devotee. The Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya Pratijanati. So let's chant this verse. It's very purifying. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachanti nigachati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Very, very important verse for all of us to meditate on. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Lord is not saying that. He's saying it to, he's telling this to Arjun because when devotee declares it, when devotee promises something, Lord has to fulfill it. And that's the beauty. It's a very sweet pastime of the Lord here. Okay, let's go back to the purport. All right, we'll get a bit drifted. Kaunteya Pratijani, O son of Kunti, please declare it. The Lord asks Arjuna to declare. And why? Because sometimes the declaration of Govinda himself may seem contradictory to mundane creatures. But the mundaner will never find any contradiction in the words of Lord's devotees. The devotees are especially protected by the Lord so that they may remain infallible. Therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of the devotee who appears in disciplic succession. The devotees are always liberated, but that does not mean that they're impersonal. The Lord is a person eternally, and the devotee of the Lord is also a person eternally. Because the devotee has his sense organs, even at the liberated stage, he is therefore a person always. And because the devotee's service is accepted by the Lord in full reciprocation, the Lord is also a person in his complete spiritual embodiment. The devotee's senses, being engaged in the service of the Lord, never go astray under the attraction of false material enjoyment. The plans of the devotee never go in vain, and all this is due to the faithful attachment of the devotee for the service of the Lord. This is standard of perfection and liberation. Anyone beginning from Lord Brahmaji down to the human being is at once put on the path of liberation simply by his attachment in the great earnestness for the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. The Lord affirms this in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. We'll go back to that verse. We go to that verse again. Mam chayo व्यभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते. Very, very famous verse, I'm sure everyone knows. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma. 14th chapter, because 13th chapter is Kshetra, Kshetrajna Vibhag Yoga. We'll come to that point little later. But then Gunatraya Vibhag Yoga, which is a 14th chapter, modes of material nature. Why a person has to transcend those modes of material nature. He says that higher than what I have been telling you, that's what Lord says in this chapter. And the reason is, unless and until that happens, the key to the lock, which is 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, will not open. And that's why he's saying this. Okay, let's go back now. Anyone, therefore, who is earnestly serious in heart and soul about being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service, will always be infallible in words and actions. The reason is that Supreme Lord is absolute truth, and anything earnestly dovetailed with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality. On the other hand, any amount of mental speculation on the strength of material science and knowledge without any bona fide touch with the absolute truth is sure to be mundane untruth and failure. Simply due to not being in touch with the absolute truth, such godless, unfaithful words and actions, however materially enriched, are never to be trusted. That is the purport of this important verse. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Wow, such a beautiful statement. Let's go to the next verse. Verse number 35. Soham samamnayamas tapomayah prajapati nama bhivadintah patihi asthaya yogam nipunam samahitas tam nadyagacham yata atma sambhavaha. Translation. Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in disciplic succession, in Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and I am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization. And although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of living beings who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. Purport. Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord, despite his vast learning in Vedic wisdom. Despite his austerities, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by great Prajapatis, the forefathers of all of the living entities. So these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to a little extent only when he was trying to serve him by the eagerness of his heart. Rudantha, which is the devotional service mood. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mood. Hang on, what is that? Okay. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mood of eagerness for service and not by any amount of material qualification as scientist or speculative philosopher or by the attainment of mystic powers. This is clearly corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 18:54 and 55. So let's join this verses. Yeah. Very important verses. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendently situated at one realizes the supreme Brahma and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service. This verse is there in Srimad Bhagavatam as well and in Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. So this is quite amazing. Let's go to the next verse. I think Prabhupada talks about 55. Yeah, very famous verse. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyashchasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato jnatva vishate tad anantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. And that's where Prabhupada gives the 7th chapter, where Lord actually gives he tells the caveat that how person can understand me, that Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrutaha mudhoyam nabhijanati loko mam ajamabhyam. I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my internal potency, and therefore I do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Very, very important verses. We won't read the purports now, but yeah. So only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualities of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc. can help one on the path of devotional service. By failing in devotional service, one remains still imperfect because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee, by service mood, bhaktya, only can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the impart of vishate enters into as referring to merging into the existence of the Supreme. Even in material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord. No materialist can disentangle self from the matter. For the self is merged in the external energy of the Lord. As no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged self from matter or by acquiring some material qualification. This Vishate by devotion, bhaktya, means to be able to participate in the association of the Lord in person, bhakti, or a devotional service to the Lord, means to become free from material entanglement and then to enter into the kingdom of God, becoming one like Him. Losing one's individuality is not the aim of Bhakti Yoga or of the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation, one of which is called Sayuja Mukti, or being merged into the existence or body of the Lord. The other forms of liberation maintain the individuality of the practice of the particle soul and involve being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The word Vishate, used in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord, regardless of the situation. What's the verse from the Shikshashtakam comes to our mind? The last 2 verses of Shikshashtakam. Anyone would like to recite those verses? What are the last 2 verses of Shikshashtakam? Okay, let's complete the purport. Otherwise, we will start our discussion. Lord Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahmhridaya Adikavaye. Therefore, who can be more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than Lord Brahma, how can a so-called Vedantist be perfectly cognizant of the absolute truth? This so-called Vedantist, therefore, cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta, or Vedanta plus Bhakti. Vedanta means self-realization, and Bhakti means realization of the personality of Godhead to some extent. No one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to a certain extent, one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, by self-surrender and a devotional attitude, and by nothing else. In the Brahma Samhita also, it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham, or simply by study of Vedanta, one can hardly find out the existence of the personality of Godhead. But the Lord is Adurlabham, Atma Bhaktau, very easily available to his devotee. Srila Vyasadeva therefore was not satisfied simply by compiling the Vedanta Sutras, but over and above this, by the advice of his spiritual master, Narad, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Srila Srinath Chakravarti Thakur in Chaitanya Mathamanjusha about the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what's the verse? Aradhya Bhagwan Prajesha Tanayas Tadham Vrindavanam Dhamya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Patragraha Naparaha. Very, very beautiful verse. We will discuss that verse once we complete our purports. So let's go to the next one. 36th verse. Natosmeham tat charanam samiyusham bhavachidam swastya yanam sumangalam यो ह्यात्ममाया विभवं स्म पर्यगात् यथा नभस्वान्तमथा परे कुतः. Translation. Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So, what can others do when the Lord Himself is unable to estimate His own limits? Very, very fascinating points for the discussion, the last statement here. We will talk about it. Purport. Lord Brahma, the greatest of all learned living beings, the greatest sacrificer, the greatest observer of the austere life, and the greatest self-realized mystic, advises us as the supreme spiritual master of all living beings that one should simply surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord in order to achieve all success, even up to the limit of being liberated from the miseries of material world and being endowed with all auspicious spiritual existence. Lord Brahma is known as the Pitamaha, or Father's Father. A young man consults his experienced father about discharging his duties, so the father is naturally a good advisor. But Lord Brahma is the father of all fathers. He is the father of the father of Man, who is the father of mankind all over the universal planets. Therefore, all men in this insignificant planet should kindly accept the instruction of Brahmaji and would do well to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord rather than try to estimate the length and breadth of the Lord's potencies. His potencies are immeasurable, as confirmed in the Vedas. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya Cha Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. He is the greatest of all, and all others, even the greatest of all living beings, namely Brahmaji, admits that the best thing for us is to surrender unto him. Therefore, only those persons with a very poor fund of knowledge claim that they themselves are lords of all that they survey. And what can they survey? They cannot survey even the length and breadth of a small sky in one small universe. The so-called material scientist says that he would need to live 40,000 years to reach the highest planet of the universe, being carried by a Sputnik. This is also utopian because no one can be expected to live 40,000 years. Besides, when a space pilot returned from his travel, none of his friends would be present to receive him back as the greatest astronaut, as has become fashionable for modern bewildered scientific men. Prabhupada is really on their case here. One scientific man who had no belief in God, but was very much enthusiastic in making plans for his material existence, and therefore opened a hospital to save the living. But after opening the hospital, he himself died within 6 months. So one should not spoil this human life, which is obtained after many, many changes of bodies in 8.4 million species of life, simply for the concocted. Oh, wow. Am I audible here?
Yes, Prayag.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So suddenly there was I think, connection issue.
It's fine. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Simply for the concocted material happiness of life through increasing artificial needs in the name of advancement of economic development and scientific knowledge. Rather, one should simply surrender unto the feet of the Lord to make solution to all miseries of life. This is the instruction of Lord Krishna directly in Bhagavad Gita, and that is the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam by Brahmaji, the Supreme Father of all living beings. Anyone denying this surrendering process, as recommended both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and for all that matter, in all authorized scriptures, will be forced to surrender into the laws of material nature. The living entity, by his constitutional position, is not independent. He must surrender either unto the Lord or unto material nature. Material nature is also not independent of the Lord, since the Lord himself has claimed material nature as Mama Maya, my energy, 7.14. Okay, let's go to this verse. What happened? This is 7.14. Yeah. Devyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratteya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarandite. And translation: the divine energy of mind, consisting of three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And I think I should close this stuff first. So, stop that, and then I think there is 7.4 as well. And me as Bhinna Prakriti Rashtada, or my separated energy in 8 divisions. Amazing purports by Srila Prabhupada. Bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhire vacha ahankara itiyam me binna prakriti rashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Yeah, one thing you all must have observed, Shvetashvatar Upanishad is one of there are 2 types of Upanishad. One is the Krishna Upanishad and one is Shukla Upanishad. Shvetashvatar Upanishad is a Shukla Upanishad. The origin, the writer of all the Shukla Upanishad is, does anyone know who is the author of all the Shukla Upanishad? Or Shweta Upanishad is also called as. Anyone? Prabhupada very wonderfully spoke about that great personality. His name was Yajnavalkya. He has written all those Upanishads, and he was a very great personality, very elevated devotee, and he establishes the principle that Lord is a person. He's the eternal supreme personality of Godhead. And that's why I think Prabhupada constantly gives the references in his purports from Shvetashvatar Upanishad. Okay, let's go back to our purport. Therefore, material nature is also controlled by the Lord, as he claimed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, another famous verse. Mayyadakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetuna anena kaunteya jagadvi parivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. This particular concept of he is the controller of everything is more elaborately given by the Lord in the 13th chapter, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhagyo. So let's see, and if we find time, then we'll go to some of the verses from that. Okay. Yeah. Under my direction only, this material nature is working, and thus all things moving. And the living entities, being superior energy to matter, have choice of discrimination, either to surrender unto the Lord or to surrender unto material nature. By surrendering unto the Lord, one is happy and liberated, but by surrendering unto material nature, the living entity suffers. So the end of sufferings means surrendering unto the Lord, because the surrendering process itself is bhava chidam, liberation from material miseries. Swastya, ayanam, perception of all happiness, and sumangalam, the source of everything auspicious. Therefore, liberty, happiness, and all good fortune can be attained only by surrendering unto the Lord, because He is full liberty, full happiness, and full auspiciousness. Such liberation and happiness are also unlimited, and they have been compared to the sky, although such liberation and happiness are infinitely greater than the sky. In our present position, we can simply understand the magnitude of greatness when it is compared to the sky. We fail to measure the sky, but the happiness and liberty obtained in association with the Lord are far greater than the sky. The spiritual happiness is so great that it cannot be measured, even by the Lord Himself, not to speak of others. Prabhupada gives a very beautiful explanation of this aspect here, what Lord Brahma says. It is said in the scriptures, Brahma Saukhyam Tvanantam. I'm sure most of you know this verse by Maharaj Rishabh. Spiritual happiness is unlimited. Here it is said that even the Lord cannot measure such happiness. This does not mean that Lord cannot measure it and is therefore imperfect in that sense. The actual position is that the Lord can measure it, but the happiness in the Lord is also identical with the Lord on account of absolute knowledge. So the happiness derived from the Lord may be measured by the Lord, but the happiness increases again, and the Lord measures it again, and then again the happiness increases more and more, and the Lord measures it more and more. And as such, there is eternally a competition between increment and measurement, so much so that the competition is never stopped, but goes on unlimitedly ad infinitum. Spiritual happiness is Anandam Buddhivardhanam, or the ocean of happiness which increases. The material ocean is stagnant, but the spiritual ocean is dynamic. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila, 4th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami has very nicely described this dynamic increment of the ocean of spiritual happiness in the transcendental person of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Amazing purports by our Acharya. So let's chant our invocation. It's almost 8:30, so I don't have to speak much actually. Prabhupada has spoken a lot directly with us. So let's chant the invocation and we will talk. Om Adnyantimirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Mam Sajivam Saadvaitam Saavadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare अजानुलम्बितभुजौ कनकावधातौ सङ्कीर्तने कपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत् प्रियकरौ करुणा अवतारौ यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूप्तां सञ्जीवयत्य अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणाश्रवणात् त्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्. Let's chant the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam because that's very relevant to today's discussion to start with. So, first canto, first verse. So let's chant this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayad Itarataschatheshva Abhidnyah Swarat Tene Brahmarudaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsuryaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargom Vrisha Dhamnasvena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. Translation. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Amazing. So much to learn and meditate on. And the same Lord Brahma, every morning in our temples, we hear the two verses from his a beautiful composition, which is Brahma Samhita. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That's how his meditation is. So, this is the first verse. Name Bharati Menga Mrishopalakshate Navaiko Chinme Manaso Mrishagatihi Name Rishi Pani Patante Satpathe Yanne Rudo Kanthya Vata Grato Harihi. O Narada, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Externally, this sounds like his confidence, and for a foolish person, it may sound like some kind of overconfidence or maybe a little bit of arrogance, but it is exactly opposite. It is his more than his confidence. It is his humility. And if we see the background, even in a material world, we see that a small boy or girl, for them, if their father is very, very well placed and very pious and very gentle and so many amazing qualities, if the father, even small children, they see. And for them, their father is a hero. For them, he can do anything. So we can imagine here, Lord Brahma's father is the Supreme Lord himself. And he is glorifying his father To whom? To his son and his beloved disciple, to Narad Muni. So naturally, the discussion, the verses, and everything here, and obviously Prabhupada, such a phenomenal, great personality, he writes purports even with such elaborate details and something for all of us to relish. And that's the reason, if we see the confidence or what Lord Brahma promises here, that it is his bhakti, his love towards his father, who is the Supreme Lord himself. And that's where he's saying, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's how he starts, O Narada. He's telling his own son. So can we just imagine how beautiful this whole discussion is? Narad Muni, Lord Brahma, who is the Paramacharya of the Sampradaya. And then he's saying, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false. Why? Because whatever he's saying, Tene Brahmardaya Adikave, it is there, it is coming from his heart, who is actually his Lord, his father, his worshipable Lord, the deity, Lord Vishnu, Krishna himself is bringing that sound vibration from his heart and coming from his mouth. And that's why he could say this statement. Nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Because his confidence that his father will never allow him, or allow in the sense, he's so wonderful. He takes care of me. That's what Lord Brahma's love and his confidence towards his father is, towards the Lord is. And that's why this whole discussion here, and that's where Prabhupada gives a very articulately, very beautifully, the different aspects of how he says Brahma Samhita. How much love Lord Brahma has towards his father. For example, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And we can see the mood in Bhagavad Gita as well. And that's why Prabhupada gives the several verses from Bhagavad Gita. When after Chatushloki Gita, when Lord says that, Arjuna also confirms this something similar statement, who you are. He talks about Krishna like this: Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Majam Vibhum. And then he gives that Ahustvam Rishya Sarve Devarshi Naradastata, Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Cheva Pravishime. So we can see that when for a devotee, the mood of glorifying the Lord, our eternal Father, is very sweet exchange. That establishment of sambandha, it immediately it establishes that very beautiful relationship, very sweet relationship with the Lord, and obviously with his devotees. Srila Radhanath Maharaj has given a very beautiful story. He has narrated a very beautiful story. We don't have a lot of time, so we will just talk about that. I'll just tell the story, and let's see if we can discuss about that verse from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction about Srimad Bhagavatam. So once Ramanujacharya, he had two disciples. One's name was, I think, Yadnesh, and second disciple's name was Varadacharya. Varadacharya was very poor Brahmin, and he used to beg alms every day, get very little bit of grains, just enough for him and his wife to cook, and rest of the day he used to worship the Lord, chant and meditate on the scriptures and the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, Sripad Ramanujacharya. Whereas the other devotee, Yadnesh, was very rich. He was a merchant and he was a very pious personality. And he was a very affluent person, he was. And once Ramanujacharya told his two of his disciples that tell Yagnesh that I'm going to come to his house and spend a day and night at his house. And when they went there, he was jubilant. He was dancing in ecstasy that his Guru Maharaj is going to come. And then he started preparing, and next day my Gurudev is coming, and he was just started giving instructions and preparing for his arrival. And then those two disciples of Ramanujacharya went back. And they said that Ramanujacharya asked both of them, what happened? And they said he was very happy that tomorrow you're going to his house and going to spend a day and a night there. So he's making all the preparations. And then Ramanujacharya asked him that how he treated you. Did he offer you prasadam? Did he offer you water, sweet words, everything? He said no, he was busy in his preparations, and then we just left because our existence did not matter in that house. And then he said, go and tell the same message to Varadacharya and his wife Lakshmi. They went there, and immediately Varadacharya and his wife, they were incredibly happy. But first what they did is they offered sweet words, some water, some fruits, and some prasad, and then they were very grateful towards their god brothers. And then they went back, and told Ramanujacharya, yeah, he was also very happy. Ramanujacharya asked the same question, that how they treated you. And they said, we were treated like very, very nicely, very respectfully and wonderful. So Ramanujacharya said, okay, we are going to Varadacharya's house. So Ramanujacharya went there, and then Varadacharya, he was out begging his alms, and then his wife welcomed Guru Maharaj, Sripad Ramanujacharya, and the devotees who were with him. And then she offered them water, but there was nothing in the house. There were no grains to cook. There was nothing. And then she had a plan. She went inside the house, and then she had a plan that there was one very wicked man in that small village who was very lusty person and who wanted to have that Varadacharya's wife for his sense gratification. So she said, he's a very rich person. So she went to him and told him that my Guru Maharaj has come. So can you send me, I will be with you for your sense gratification, for your Indriya Sukha. But please send me some grains and some bhoga so that I can cook and for my spiritual master, for my Guru Maharaj. And he was dancing because he thought that now my purpose is fulfilled. So he gave lot of bhoga, grains and everything to her. And she cooked a wonderful feast, a very opulent feast for Sripad Ramanujacharya. So they ate bellyful and honored the prasadam. And by that time, Varadacharya came, and he saw that feast, and he said, what's happening? Means, how come you got so much of bhoga? And then with a shameful face and bowed head, Lakshmi, his wife, narrated all the background behind it. And then Varadacharya was dancing, and he said, I'm so proud of you to please our spiritual master. you did not care about anything else. So you are amazing. And he was so jubilant and happy. And then Ramanujacharya sensed it. Then he said, what's happening? And then they told the story to Ramanujacharya, because you have to reveal your heart to your spiritual master. And Ramanujacharya said, bring that person to me. No, he said that take this Mahaprasad from me and ask him to honor it, have it, and then bring him to me. So they took Mahaprasad from Sripad Ramanujacharya when Ramanujacharya was taking rest in their small house, the hermitage, and then they offered him the Mahaprasad. The person ate that very delicious, sumptuous Mahaprasad, and his heart changed. And he had tears in his eyes. And then he said, such a great blunder, how disgusting and how horrible thoughts I had in my mind. For I want to meet your spiritual master. And they both said, Varadacharya and his wife, that yes, our Guru Maharaj also wants to see you. So they went and saw when he met Ramanujacharya, he fell at his lotus feet and then begged for forgiveness and requested for initiation, and then he became his disciple. Other hand, then by that time the Yajnesh, he came to know, and then he came about this whole incident, and then Ramanujacharya, he came and went and met Ramanujacharya. And that time he said that, Guru Maharaj, what happened? Are you upset with me? And then Ramanujacharya said, no, I'm not upset, but you have forgotten the basic etiquettes of serving your god brother and god sisters and being together, that harmonious relationship. If you miss that, then you have missed the basic principle of it. So Radhanath Maharaj was emphasizing that bhakti, which is the emphasis in all the three verses here, which is the prime focus in our sampradaya, rather than jnana and karma, by Mahaprabhu, what he puts forward for all of us is bhakti. And bhakti means have that harmonious, very beautiful relationship among ourselves, and together, when we will have that realization, we will have that kripa or the mercy of the Lord, so that we can serve the Lord and have that Tene Brahma Hridaya Nikave, Chaitya Guru, Lord in our heart, will guide us for the pure path of devotional service. Very, very beautiful story Maharaj has narrated. So I thought we will talk about it here. And the verse, we have just 1 minute. The verse is in the second part, second verse of after this, we were in the 25th verse, why Srimad Bhagavatam is so crucial for all of us, that Mahaprabhu says that Pramana Amalam, the spotless Purana. Why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam gives us that Bhakti Sutra, the formula of Bhakti. How that later on he says in that Gopir Bharaturpada Kamale or Das Das Dasanudas. But before that he says what is our objective, how to focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mood of Vrindavan, of Aradhya Bhagwan Brajesha Tanayastadhama Vrindavanam. That mood of Vrindavan, of being servant, and that simplicity, saralata in our heart is so crucial. And then Ramya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhuvargenaya Kalpita. Beyond our imagination is that Upasana happening constantly in the in the Vrindavan. And then the third line is Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan. The supreme experience of prema person can have via Srimad Bhagavatam if we meditate on the principles given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what Lord says. And then the Srinath Chakravarti Thakur says in the last line that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam. That is the opinion of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tatradaraha napara. There is nothing beyond that. That's the topmost opinion. That's the actual ultimate truth. So that's what the verse is. I think we don't have time to discuss anything anymore. Prabhupada has very mercifully given us so much in all the three purports here. So we will stop. I don't think I have spoken much, so I'm not sure if there are any questions or any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I think it's the power of the truth with that story, isn't it? Because Mataji was so truthful, and her intention to serve her Guru Maharaj, who is the parampara to Krishna. So Krishna made it happen, I think. What do you think? It's so powerful, that story.
It is very powerful. But
The truth is marvelous. It's actually never you never lose when you tell the truth. Although we are afraid to do so, we just try to protect each other in the real world, and we tell lies just to be seen as doing a great job, perhaps. So I like that bit about her being honest, and she was such a pure devotee.
yes,
She was humble and very pure, and she surrendered and said, look, this is what I did. And it's amazing.
yes.
That's a good lesson to take home.
Yeah. And her spiritual master is none other than Lord Balram himself, Lakshman,
Yeah.
Ramanujacharya. So when his mercy is there, the Adi Guru, then obviously everything will be fine. It's all in place. Yeah.
Thank you, Haribol.
Thank you, Vijay. Anything else? Amok Prabhu, you're here. Thank you for your association. Though I can't see and hear you. But anyway, do you have anything to add, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. You have explained everything perfectly, Prabhuji. It is our nectarian, and Jahna Kanya Mataji also have given a glimpse of it in the past time. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I don't have anything to add. Very beautiful. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. I didn't say much. It was all in the purports. So it was just talking and just reading. That's what my job was. But yeah, it was very purifying. Prabhupada's words are always purifying. So
It's beautiful stories tell the whole passage, Prabhu. You don't have to go through the purport and this translation. It's just so powerful. These stories bring home light to our lives. So that was really good, really strong and powerful. Thank you.
Yes. Stories are always the pastimes. Stories of the Lord and his devotees are very, very powerful. And that's the point Prabhupada makes here, that when the devotee promises something, then Lord has to fulfill it. And that's why he says that, oh Arjuna, you declare that my devotee will never perish. So it's an amazing lesson for all of us. So that's basically it.
Thank you for the class, very wonderful. And I like all the purport, the way Srila Prabhupada has explained so elaborately.
Yes. Very beautiful purports.
It's kind of self-explanatory. I just felt this wonderfully done. Only thing I just wonder, Lord Brahma is, Narada to Narada, he's saying, and he's holding the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, that's its so humility. I mean, so with that humility, he's trying to explain to Narada, to his son.
Yeah.
I mean, it explains. That's why it is so nice to read this.
Very
This part. Yeah, just so wonderful. Really purifying, very purifying.
absolutely. So
Thank
we don't have time. Otherwise, there are some amazing details in Lord Brahma's prayers for the creative energy. Very, very beautiful prayers Lord Brahma offers to the Lord. And you can read that. It's a 3.9, third canto, 9th chapter. Those are all the prayers of Lord Brahma. It's a beautiful meditation. Means, so Mataji, of course, you know that. Means you're
I don't know anything.
yeah.
I just thought these are so nice the way it is been explained. So at the end of the millennium, does Brahma, I mean, I'm sure he goes back to the spiritual world.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So in one lecture, Srila Romapad Swami Maharaj, he says that our Lord Brahma is a maid servant. He is a gopi in the spiritual world. So we are very fortunate that when he explains about the scriptures or when he talks about the scriptures, his mood is very much gopi mood. And that's why Lord Chaitanya came in, he has, our sampradaya is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Because Lord himself came in that sampradaya. So that's something amazing. This is one of my favorite prayers. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya dhyanes manodarshitam ta upasakanam tasmai namo bhagavate nuvidhema tubhyam yonadruto naraka bhagbhira saprasangehi. I must have chanted this so many times when we discuss this. This present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is equally auspicious for all universes, since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. Such a powerful prayer it is. It's an amazing prayer. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's getting late. I apologize for taking more time. Thank you very much, Palika Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just a little comment about the power of prasadam, how we
Yes.
transform that man's mind and well-being.
Yeah.
So yeah, prasadam it never fails us. When we think about it, when we share prasadam, we reap the benefit tenfold more, and people don't recognize how beautiful and powerful it is.
Yes, yes, yes. Prasadam is always wonderful, Mataji.
Yeah, Haribol.
I'm sure you're an amazing cook as well. So Palika Mataji is a
No, I'm not. I'm Palika Mataji is, but not me. I'm learning, Prabhu.
I'm sure you are. So yeah, thank you everybody for your virtual association. That's also very pleasant and nice. So vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Vasindu evacha
Patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnava
Vaishnavebhyo
Krishna.
namo namaha.
Beautiful class. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Hare
so much,
Krishna.
Prabhuji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the beautiful class. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.